Hello, I'm Richard Ridge for Broadway World. 22 cast members from the original 1981 Broadway production of the Stephen Sondheim George Firth musical Merrily We Roll Along, including the show's 3 stars, Lonnie Price, Ann Morrison, and Jim Walton, reunited here at City Center for a cocktail reception and a performance of Encore's new production of Merrily We Roll Along. And I'm here to find out what it was like working on the original.
Tonight means everything to me because we haven't seen each other as a group in 10 years. We did a production of the show that Lonnie got us together for, which was a benefit for Musical Theater Works back in 2002. And that just was an incredible experience, chills through our spine, night and occasion. And now to have Encores doing the show and to have another excuse for a reunion. Hey, we love a party. So I sort of came up with this back in the fall, and I approached Encores and I said, what do you think of the original company coming to see this as a group together? We'd support your company, we would love to be together, and it just spawned from that into this wonderful night that it is.
We are here tonight because this is the 30th anniversary of the original show of Merrily We Roll Along. We're having a reunion. The last time we saw each other was 10 years ago when we did the 20 years thing. Actually, it was 21 years. And we did this amazing concert. So we said every 10 years we have to find a reason to come together, and how brilliant it happens to be the Encore's production of Merrily We Roll Along. I was the last person cast. They didn't have their Mary Flynn yet, and it was a very fun experience. Sondheim I hadn't seen yet. I'd seen Hal, and he really wanted to be a part of the show, and he said, please come back and sing for Steve, because he was in Mallorca, and it ended up being on my birthday. So when we were through, he said, this is wonderful, what's your range? You know, I haven't finished a song yet, and yada, yada, yada. Thank you, I'll see you at rehearsal. So I leave the theater, I'm thinking, I just got a Broadway show for my birthday, and I walk down the street a little bit longer, and I go, Stephen Sondheim's writing me a song, which ended up being Now You Know. So an amazing disappointment that it didn't work. And a lot of us left with a tremendous amount of wounding. But this glorious thing happened 21 years later when we had this reunion concert. And where 21 years before we saw people walking up the aisles, leaving the show, 21 years later they're standing on their feet screaming at a rock concert. 21 years before I made my Broadway debut in a sweatshirt with Best Pal on it. 21 years later I'm in a svelte evening gown looking like a classy woman. 21 years before, I'm watching Stephen Sondheim and Hal Prince break up their relationship. 21 years later, they're holding on to each other, announcing their next production. So it was just, in a lifetime, you can heal and change history.
Show me some of the goodies you got tonight.
My goodness, Annie Morrison, the original Mary, whose voice I was obsessed with for years and years, said she had a little present for me, and she showed me, this picture, which is her with her little t-shirt on, and she gave me a necklace that says Best Pal. So that's how the night has started, emotional, with some tears.
What it was like working with James Lapine all over again.
It was a dream, and I don't know if another director would have even brought me in for this part necessarily. It's not totally what I'm known for, and so I think his whole thing was like, you can just do less. You don't have to put on too much. Make sure that you give her a progression. And he was so useful to me the entire time. And I don't know, there's just something about this character that really speaks to me. And it's very lucky as an actor when you happen upon one of those roles.
First of all, it's a reunion for the original cast of Merrily We Roll Along, so that's any reunion with those who go that far back is a great thing. And to revisit the show is always nostalgic, and it's kind of what the show is about, is looking back and examining how it is you got to where you are. And I knew even then, soak it in. This isn't going to happen next year or the year after that. You're not going to be cast in a Sondheim and Prince show. I knew it was a very rare and special opportunity.
It's really been just an extraordinary journey. I mean, it happens so fast you barely know what's happening, but at the same time, there's something so special about the piece that really just draws you into it so deeply and draws the people who are involved together in such a wonderful way. The design team is amazing. Ann Hould-Ward and Tom Watson and Wendell putting together the projections. It's incredible the amount that they accomplished for an encore show and doing what they did to really create these full, alive characters with our wardrobe and our wigs and everything. And I think my dad's going to see the show this coming weekend, and I think he's going to freak out and say, "Oh my God, I think I had that actually."
It's all a fun time for you, right?
Yeah, I love working.
You know, you've done 2 shows already. You've just done Becoming Chaplain, which I saw you in, and you were amazing in that. And you were rehearsing this at the same time?
Yeah.
So tell me what that was like, rehearsing a show and playing in another one.
Well, I got a little tired, but that was fun too.
What's the whole best part? The best part of the whole experience for you has been what?
Working with all the people in the cast.
And what is it like when you take your bow every night and the whole audience is on their feet? How do you feel?
Really, really good.
I'm doing this documentary about the making of Merrily, not the making of Merrily, about the company. And what I'm learning is we were all just blown away that we were even in the room with Steve and Hal. I mean, nobody took it for granted. Everybody realized what a special, enormous gift it was just to be there. Shepherd Ink was particularly written very late, and I got the first third of it 3 nights before we started previews, the second third 2 nights, and then the last third, I think, the night before we started. And so we spent 5 weeks of rehearsal saying, and Lonnie sings a song here, and then we'd move along. And the whole character was in that song, so I was a little bit floundering, I think. But then, you know, Steve wrote this amazing tour de force for me, and not for me, for the character. And like a tailor making, the greatest tailor in the world making you a suit, it just fits so beautifully in my voice. I have a few very bright notes. It just kept hitting them. You know, I was just very lucky to get to have that as a gift. It was a gift. The whole show was a gift. You know, people say, oh, you know, we went through a lot of changes and it didn't run long, but honestly, to us, it was an enormous success in our lives, and we wouldn't have it any other way.
I'm so looking forward to seeing the show. I've never seen another production, so I'm curious to see how much I remember, because from the concert we only did parts of the book, and we made so many changes during the whole rehearsal process and preview process. I don't really remember how the show ended up, so I'm just going to be like a happy spectator, and you know, it's going to be great. I'm just so happy it's finally being done again in New York. It was incredible. It was a roller coaster. We were cast, I think, 10 months ahead of time, and we're told at the final day when we got the job that we were going to be postponed because Hal had some operas he had to direct. So we started Merrily waiting parties and a Merrily newsletter. So it was this huge build-up to the rehearsal. My favorite memories is they gave us a new transition, and it was like 5 of us. And they had new music, new choreography. And that night, we practiced at dinner break, and we're like, okay, we're going to do this. And the music started, dun, dun, da, da, dun, 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 and we ran out to do it, but they hadn't given the orchestra the new charts. So we started doing this transition that had nothing to do with what the orchestra was playing. And then Paul Gemignani cut the orchestra out. We finished with just piano, finished the number, went off stage, fell on the floor laughing, and then I think we cried because it was so horrible.
To see it reach new audiences and be recognized for the masterpiece that it is so gratifying to us, or to me anyway, because we knew it was special then, and it wasn't greeted that way by the public or the press, and to have it so triumphantly return to New York is, it's sort of us returning triumphantly to New York as well.
It's just lovely to see these people that, are part of my childhood. They're part of my introduction to New York. New York is a place that I didn't ever want to come. I turned down Juilliard because it was in New York, and it was just too scary for me. And then, 6 months later, I get a Broadway show, and it's like, it's in New York. And I come to do the show with my idols, and it's a flop. And it's like, the best and the worst, and yet it made my career because having been chosen by them, it didn't matter that I didn't go to graduate school. I was able to get an agent. I was able to continue working because the gods had, said I was good. So it opened doors that, wouldn't have been opened in any other way.
You worked with your father as a director.
Yes.
You got to work with Stephen Sondheim, who was a family friend, and George Firth. What that whole experience was like?
It was a very unique and amazing experience. I mean, I think it framed things in a very different way for me. It was nerve-wracking. I would come home, and if anything wasn't going particularly well, my father would feel pretty guilty, and that was difficult. I also was, I think in a way, I was far more nervous during the audition process, during sort of all of those endless auditions, because I realized if I didn't do well, I would be seeing these people again and often, and that's very disconcerting. But and when I was finally cast, I was worried, I was nervous, as you would be. I was 16. I was worried that everybody would think, oh, it's nepotism, she shouldn't be in this company. And actually, it was a really terrific experience, and the cast embraced me from the beginning.
Well, I came in during previews. Ron Field had been the original choreographer, and it wasn't really a dance show. It was a lot of musical staging, but not really dance show. And so Hal asked me to see it. I did. He said, do you think you can help us? I said, yes. So I came in, and it was almost like summer stock. I was doing a number or two every day, and it would go in that night. And they extended the previews like 10 days so that I could get it what I wanted to do done.
It's just an extraordinary experience to see all these folks from the original production. These are people who, when I listen to the cast album, these are the voices that that I used to listen to in my college dorm, and to see them here is so meaningful, and to get the sense of the history of the show and its legacy, and it's very inspiring to see how close and how tight these folks are, how they've managed to stay in contact, and just how meaningful it is for them. In some ways, it sort of echoes the meaning of the show itself.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, Encores tonight. Special night because we are joined by the entire original cast of Merrily, and we'd like to invite our old friends to the stage. So come on up. There are steps on the side. Take your time. It's dark. Give them a round of applause if you're great. Friends, fame, or it'll make the great new ones are quick.